shall we say?
Sure.
Yes. I'm with Mr. Dilip Krishnaswamy here at Genesis DevCon, a blockchain conference happening in Bangalore. So Mr. Dilip was a speaker at the conference. He is Vice President of New Technology Initiatives at Reliance Jio, and he has a great body of work and a fantastic resume behind him. So I wanted to discuss with Mr. Dilip about the kind of work you've done in the past and kind of understand the skills it took that to get you where you are. So how are you, sir, first of all?
Good, yeah.
Okay, and could you summarize your talk from today just in very briefly?
So the talk was focused on blockchain technology, primarily from a permission private context, and the fact that the future of deployments of such technology could be on virtualized infrastructure.
So, what I noticed on your portfolio is that you always had an eye out for emerging technology. Is that correct?
Yes, you always look for something interesting to challenge you, and so you're always looking for, how can I leverage this technology to do something useful as well. So
okay.
Yes, it's a combination of that.
Okay. Can you recollect some of similar instances from early days in your career? Some of the projects that you have worked that was ahead of its time.
So I started at Intel after my doctorate, and we were working on the Pentium 4 at that time.
Wow, the Pentium 4, a long time ago. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So you were involved in the Pentium 4 project?
Yes, I was involved in the project.
So what was your role there, sir?
So I had just joined, so I was just one of the many people making a small contribution to the overall project.
Okay.
But after that project, Intel decided to work on system on chip for computing and communications.
Okay.
And we built SoC architecture, which was ahead of its times. It integrated computing and communications and memory on chip, and for high performance, and you could have really wide buses, to execute software and stuff like that.
Okay.
But it's like today's Snapdragon, but we were doing this in 2001, 2002, and it was too early.
Okay.
But I presented it at Hot Chips at Stanford and things like that. But so sometimes you develop things, but it needs time to actually.
So is it the company that is giving you these opportunities, or are you seeking out in terms of learning and challenging yourself?
It's a combination of both. I mean, as I have generally functioned as sort of an architect in most of these companies, Intel or Qualcomm or IBM, and now at Jio. It's more like you work in ambiguity because you are not prescribed.
I just wanted to take a moment to digest that. Intel, Qualcomm, IBM, Jio. I mean, these are some great places to work, I'm sure. Yes, please.
Yes.
Please continue. Yeah.
Exciting. Yeah. No. So we actually look up for you to provide some inputs. Eventually, it does come top down because you have to make a case for something that you're proposing. But it's also not just individuals. You actually work in teams. You brainstorm. You think about what could be useful. Both from technology perspective, from the value to the company, from the value to people, and all of that stuff, and and then you kind of if it gets momentum, then you actually pursue it.
Okay. Yeah. So your role itself was it did it used to be programming? What was that?
Some aspect of programming initially, but more quickly
became
more about architecture, our thinking, strategizing. No, I had my resume say or on the web, say I was a platform an architect, and then somebody asked me for some civil construction in San Diego. But architect in the computing world is somebody who tries to think about an overall solution, puts things together, and stuff like that. So most of my work has been trying to do that. But as you try to create a solution now, as new technologies come, now I have to absorb the knowledge of how that technology can fit within the overall framework of things I know to create something more useful than could have been without the technology.
Okay.
And sometimes you are actually creating the technology itself, rather than just using it. But it becomes a combination of both.
Yes. Now, can you talk about the impact of your job? Now you are a vice president at a very big company. Definitely, your work is influencing like in a very large scale. But going back before, did you also have that kind of impact early in career?
Oh, I think regardless of what title you have, you are. I think even if you're just a starting engineer at Intel or at Qualcomm or whatever, you're part of a big, a valuable project that's going to, whether it was designing a chip or thinking about a new wireless protocol or something. So you're part of a passionate community that's doing something interesting and useful, and you feel valuable at any level. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I mean, even right now, I feel like I'm just an engineer who just got out of school, who's learning. I'm constantly learning. So it's nothing has changed.
Awesome. And do you manage a team now?
Yes. There is a small team. Yes.
Okay. And what kind of
people? A larger team that is helping.
Okay.
As well. Yeah.
So what kind of people report to you? I mean, generally speaking.
So mostly other architects.
Okay.
And then there's a
people who previously did your job. Is that correct?
Sort of. Yeah. And but so I'm trying to grow them as well. But we also have a large group of developers who will actually implement some of the things that we think about, and you make them part of that thinking process as well. So they are involved as well as you think about it. And then there are business development, product development folks also thinking about whether it makes sense or it's silly, it shouldn't be done or something like that. So you need constant feedback from everybody.
Awesome. Yeah. So was career growth a focus for you, or was it a passion for the skill and the work you were doing? I mean, I think there's an element of organic growth based from the skill and the work you're delivering, but also you can be strategic about the way you look at work.
So I think for me, it's not about career growth at all. For me, it's more about knowledge growth.
Okay.
And just learning more and more, and having the ability or developing the skills to actually be useful wherever I am.
So when you say knowledge growth, would you take extra effort after work hours, or was it more development during your work? Like, what is that like?
I'm actually probably learning all the time.
Okay.
But during work hours, you're focusing on work, but you do take some time to actually learn some stuff. But I think if people spend at least 1 hour a day doing something completely different, even if it's totally unrelated to what you're doing, you never know how that will connect to something else you will do in the future.
Wow. Okay.
So just keep learning, invest, say, 1 hour a day.
Can you give me an example of a hobby of yours, or something that you took up that has contributed to your career or well-being?
So I was interested in physics when I was growing up, but my career went into engineering and stuff like that. But then when, I don't know if you know about gravitational waves and stuff, but
Only as much as the school has taught me.
so when two black holes collide,
Okay.
they produce a gravitational wave,
Okay.
which is very powerful where they collide. But
Okay.
it the amplitude falls off as 1/r as it 1/, the distance as it comes to Earth.
Okay.
So, but no one knew whether they existed or not. But then there was this event, a discovery event with two detectors in the U.S. And suddenly I got excited, and then I was able to do some research in that area. But and it built upon some other knowledge that I had set aside, but suddenly this event happened, and then we were able to write a physics research paper on it and things like that. It just got
Is
published
your
in a journal.
doctorate based on that?
No, my doctorate is in VLSI technology,
Okay.
parallel processing.
Okay.
Completely different.
Okay.
But you never know what you might have learned will connect to something else that you might think about, and then collaborate with some scientists somewhere. And so it was fun. Nothing to do with work, but did it in my spare time and things like that. But yeah.
That's awesome. So, like, when you look at people who work, I mean, younger, the people younger, like early in career who work with you and all that, is there some trait that you see that like resonates with you and, like a predictor of success maybe?
I think, the entrepreneurship and startup culture is beautiful to see.
Okay.
That people have decided to, take charge of their lives and try to create some things. And though for me, like when I was doing, after my undergrad at IIT Madras, I was in the US and I was doing grad school and I'm finishing my master's, and everybody's going for a job interview, and I'm not. I'm sure I want to do a PhD, and they are surprised, why aren't you going for these job interviews? And I said, no, I want to study right now, so
Okay.
not thinking about it. So, I find that a bit lacking these days, that people
Okay.
are so into, they want to get out there and just do something, that they haven't invested the time in education.
Okay.
And maybe quickly somebody will create some software in 2 weeks with some open source stuff and all of that,
Yeah.
and then hope that it'll become some mega corporation or something. And you need sometimes you need deep knowledge in a certain subject to create some advanced solution. And potentially it's there as part of some open source tool that got released, or maybe some natural language processing code got released and you just used it, and good for you at that time. And if you know how to use it, but sometimes if it's some deep learning package and stuff like that, or some data science capability, you need domain knowledge. You need depth in that area to actually know what to do with the data, right? So if people just become data science experts, but they don't have any knowledge in any particular domain, then they're struggling. They're waiting for people to give them information. The domain experts are, just maybe utilizing them to actually make progress on their work. So it's good to go deep as well. I mean, I think I hope at least. The passion is great, but I hope some people can defer the passion a little longer to learn some subject or a few subjects.
That is such an interesting way to put it. Like, because there is passion and there is energy to do things in general nowadays,
Right.
especially considering how you can put yourself out there. But having patience with that is what you're saying. Right?
And the thing is, a lot of things that happen today are interdisciplinary. You combine many different things. If you think about a drone, design of a drone, it's a quadcopter, typical design with four different fans basically, and blades running. But this drone has to be light. So it requires something in advances in material science. It has to be strong, right? It has to carry a heavy payload, and then and then you have to combine your knowledge in mechanical engineering and physics. Is some angular momentum that has to be balanced for your roll, pitch, and yaw and stuff like that. There are different ways to do that. Whether you do it across or these two turn faster than these two, and for it to turn things like that. So now there is, and then there is circuitry to actually the ESCs to actually control electronic circuitry to actually control the actions of the drone takes. So this is electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, material science, math, physics, all coming together for something so tiny. But imagine, I mean, if you need people from all these different fields to actually make this little thing work, and information technology, and wireless technology, because the drone is talking to the ground station, and then the drone has to coordinate its path with the information that is there with GPS and all of that. So there's so many technologies coming together. And if you were just say, hey, I'm just a software programmer, you didn't invest time learning other things, then you will be lacking in knowledge. So you have to try to understand all the other areas as well to actually make a bigger difference. I mean, and also on biology, there's a lot of stuff happening in biotech as well, right? So
you are definitely like so enthusiastic about learning and finding out more about things you are interested in, and that is the kind of trait that you also wish for.
Yes, I do.
People. Yeah. Now, final question to you. Like, I want your thoughts on the education system. Like, you've been through engineering, you've been through school, and all of us go through the same drill. And I believe from 20 to 30 years ago, and now it's very similar to how it used to be. So, what are your thoughts about that? And like, what do you think could improve? I mean, if at all you have any.
I actually, unfortunately, the education system has to cater to a huge population. So it has become just a production system that is just putting people through some sort of rote education and stuff, especially in India. And to a large extent, that may be the best we can do, because we have to educate an entire population. But if people can differentiate a little bit, allow some creative thinking, allow some creative projects, because most of the time it's like, and teachers sometimes get annoyed if you don't exactly write in your answer what they dictated in class. I mean, those things have to change, and that is still persisting in India.
That's true.
And so, and then people just get programmed into just repeating or rote memorization and stuff like that, and they're not doing exercises in creative thinking. So I think we should evolve into more a creative education process where some projects are allowed to be explored, and failure is actually rewarded. You should get an A+ even if you failed on the project because of your effort, right?
It is the opposite. We're punished.
And so then sometimes people will fudge their results or something like that and give a report, but actually maybe the way the experiment was set up, it was meant to fail, but it was a useful learning experience, right? But it's hard to kind of think along these lines, and it'll take a long time. But and then people have these things about flipped classrooms and stuff like that, where maybe you read the textbook and then you work out problems in class and things like that. So those things are promising. But if you look at maybe education in the universities in US and stuff like that, a definite curriculum is never imposed on a student. There's a general guideline of what they should learn, or what might be the 6 courses that they have to take, but then they have freedom to select all the courses
Okay.
to develop in the direction that they want to be. The question that the other countries ask people is, what do you want to be? And here we are told you should be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer, right?
And even once you
even
select that is very
which
limited.
field and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and you're not asking the individual, do you want to just be an artist, right? And maybe that's where the talent lies, and the talent is lost.
That is amazing coming from someone who's so technical. So it is really reassuring to also hear from hear from you advocating for an approach like that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you can succeed in different ways. I mean, as long as you're happy doing what you're doing, right? And,
Okay.
Yeah. So if the education system can be a little more broad-minded and letting people discover themselves while providing some base level of education, I think, and allowing exploration and creative thinking, that'll be good. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome. So thank you so much for your time. It's such
Thank
a
you.
pleasure talking to you.
Likewise. Thank you.